me the money.
How are you all doing then after a few exams? You're feeling sort of
Cheerful.
cheerful? Good. How many more you got apart from e-commerce? One. All right. Okay.
Discretion. This is an Asian Productions.
Yes.
I just get that I'm trying to promote my own company.
Is that it? How we indie market company?
Right.
Is that some books?
Okay, the presentation's on my place, so don't bother taking any notes or whatever. Well, you never know.
Just recording.
It's a very easy exam to pass. Okay, 3 questions. I do one, George does one, and we share another. Therefore, when you do some revision, make sure that you revise George's stuff as well as my stuff. Okay? Because it's guaranteed to be in at least half a question. And in previous exams, some students have lost marks by not obviously revising George's stuff because you're tossing away half the question. So revise George's stuff, okay? Can I say that again? Revise George's stuff because it will guarantee you at least half a question, maybe more. Right. What might be in the other stuff, you may be saying? Well, let's just quickly go through for the sake of completion all the bits that we've done. This idea of these particular strategies, okay? And, well, I'm thinking that that could very, very, very well be there in the paper, all right? It's not guaranteed, but, you know, pretty much. So what you need to do to answer that sort of question is obviously to be able to define the different strategies. And if you can, give some examples of where they've worked and maybe where they haven't worked. Okay? And try and sort of think outside the box. It's a difficult topic to actually revise. I mean, obviously you've got the lectures there. But to be honest, going through some of the online sources, if you go through some of the sort of news feeds and so on, I mean, obviously all the furore that's out there now about Facebook and so on, there's a heck of a lot of really good examples that you can pick up very easily, and that will almost certainly feed into, well, you've got your 2 questions to do, at least one of those 2, and maybe half of another. Okay? So, what you want to do for these questions is obviously define those categories, but if you can, for the extra marks, come up with some good examples, and maybe some examples of people that have tried it and failed. Because I think one of the things we've got to be clear about here is that there are no clear answers. Nobody really knows what is going to be guaranteed to be a good e-commerce venture. And these are just ideas and strategies for you to follow that may have worked for other people, but may have not.
I'm going to touch in the wrong places.
I think I said something earlier on in the lecture stream about music being sort of domain. So maybe if you think about that as a question with those strategies and music as the general domain area, that should give you quite a good clue as what this particular question might be. Right.
Daddy likes.
General stuff. I say they're all interesting topics. For example, what we're looking at there is this idea of how technology drives things. Well, that's sort of linked into the theories, and there's Mr. Tapscott's Wikinomics theories, which I wasn't too happy about. I don't really think there are any sort of good questions that I can drag out of there that would give you lots and lots to say about it. So I think maybe if you sort of skip over that bit in your revision, you know, give it a lightweight touch, so to say. Who could leave out Mr. Tapscott and his main 12 themes? I mean, what would an e-commerce exam paper be without those 12 themes? It just wouldn't be there, would it? You wouldn't. It would just hurt you to look at it. You feel the pain, wouldn't you? Yeah, that must be there. So by now you probably should have worked out what the topics are. So what we're going to do is pick an area for you to discuss Mr. Tapscott's ideas. Remember, there's two ways of approaching this, both of them good. First thing you do is obviously tell us what the themes are, but like I said earlier, try and sort of come up with some ideas, some examples which maybe illustrate the themes or where they go wrong. And I think this is the thing you've got to be aware of. It's also useful to take on some of these models. I mean, don't just dismiss it. You know, Tapscott is an idiot, full stop. Look at particular themes. Some of them are better than others. Some of them seem to work better in certain circumstances. Okay. So remember, one of his themes I had a go at, which was convergence, this idea of a digital sort of a company that had network, that had content, that had sort of computing expertise. Didn't seem to work out, but then when you look at something like Apple, that's exactly what Apple does. It's got its own sort of little set of consumers, and it gives them the technology and the digital services to go along with that. So, and I think he's pretty much got it right. Those themes somewhere will work for something. But as I say, so make sure you know what the themes are, and come up with some useful examples, maybe of where they work and where they don't work. And again, I think I mentioned earlier in the year that I'd sort of say I'd concentrate on music as the application area. So I'm trying to make it nice and easy for you there. You've got pretty much the same application area. Don't use the same examples in both. That makes it hard for me to give you marks in the exam for saying the same thing twice. But it does make it a little bit easier in that you've sort of got a good idea now of where you might want to focus. There could be a really nice exam question in this. For example, the second bit on looking at localization. I think that's a really good preparation for actually going out in the big bad world and running this sort of service for real, because you've really got, if you want to be sort of into different areas, you've really got to cope with this whole localization problem. But I think maybe you might want to sort of give that a light touch in your revision. Or again, Mr. Kevin Kelly, I think the 8 generatives are a really nice set of ideas as to how to make money without sort of obviously asking for money or charging. And some of those might give you some nice ideas or ways to sort of link in with the themes, because you know, you might be asked about Tapscott, but maybe Kevin Kelly has got some other ideas that come in there. So the question may say, what are Tapscott's ideas? But you could also say, well, Tapscott says this, but Kevin Kelly says something completely different. Okay. And I'm not going to do sort of legal issues. We're not doing it. Right. Like I said earlier, there are 3 questions, right? And 1.5 I set, 1.5 George sets. Now, in previous years, for some unknown reason, students have never revised George's stuff. And I don't know why. You sort of think, looking at the material. Anyway, revise George's stuff. Okay? If you revise my stuff, the stuff that I've hinted at, and George's stuff, you will be sailing through the exam. You'll be look at the 3 questions, pick whichever 2 that you think are the easiest for you to do, and you'll have no problems whatsoever. Okay, but do please revise George's stuff. It should be, you should know what that is. It shouldn't give you too much of a sort of a hill to climb over or whatever. But do revise George's stuff. When people have had problems in previous e-commerce exams, it's essentially because they haven't revised the technical bit of it. And I sort of think, that's a bit weird. Why you know, wouldn't you do that? That's sort of straightforward. It's actually harder dealing with the more argumentative sides of things that you get from Tapscott and so on. But revise both the sides, and that will give you a choice of 3 questions. And of course, you only do 2 out of the 3 questions. Right. More good news, you've all passed the assessed work. If you submitted assessed work, you've all got a pass mark. I think the minimum sort of goes from around about middle 50s up to early 70s for some of the good stuff. So you've all got, you're going into the exam sitting on some marks already, and I will promise I will send them out, maybe not this evening, but over the weekend. So you'll have them well in time for the exam, but none of you came anywhere near failing. I gave all the projects obviously passed, and some of the, almost all the individual comments were at least sort of 55 or more. So you've got a little cushion there, so you can relax, stare out the window. You can leave after 5 minutes and can't leave. Well, you know what I mean. You can hope have I wouldn't say good time, but less of a stressful time than you might otherwise have. Any thoughts or questions on that? I've tried to be as blunt as I can with telling you what to do. So revise George's stuff and my stuff, the sort of core areas. So don't skimp on either one of those two, and look at the 3 questions and think, right, which are going to be the best 2 for you. Yeah.
In terms of like answering the question.
Go on, yeah.
Excuse me, sir. Like, is it cool to write in bullet points, or does it have to be in essay format?
You can basically write it how you want. People sometimes in exams have sort of, they almost invent a new literary style where you have like 3 books and there's bits of each of books in sort of like hypertext linked and all this sort of stuff. Do whatever you like. I mean, the university lets you do whatever you like. I mean, the main thing is make it readable, okay? And my tip also is to write notes, a sort of a list of things you want to mention in your answer, because even if you don't get the time to mention them, you sort of mention them as a word and I can give you marks for it. So the best way always to answer an exam question is to put a note, set a note to yourself, okay? And then maybe do another question, set a note, so you can have another book if you want to. I mean, the university will give you books for free. And then expand out the sets of notes.
I like this
That's
guy.
a good way of getting marks. Notes first, and then
More guys could be
expand
like
out.
him.
And when you expand out,
I wouldn't mind if he touched me.
other things that you didn't get in your notes. And if you look back at your notes, think, have I covered all these problems?
I would. Would be quite concerned.
Piece of cake.
I suppose.
Not quite a piece of cake.
That's what Charlie was it?
Can't think of anything else I can do.
Looks like he's got a death
to
touch.
help you pass.
I know he likes a drink.
Rather than write the questions for you. I'm not decision. Any other questions on it? So, as I say, please revise George's stuff along with my stuff. The people that have got low marks in previous years have not done that. And just answer the question. They're very much down the line along the things we've covered in class. Nothing tricky. And if you can find any good examples, throw them in. Yeah.
How do you read it? Because it's quite a lot of few chapters.
It does take a while, but certainly look at the bits on Tapscott and so on, because they will give you examples which sort of flesh out the model. So do look at the readings as long as they are going to come up in the question. And I think you know roughly where the bits that are going to be, the questions are going to be. So that will help you target your reading to the chapters online. So you don't have to read all of it.
The slides going up?
Yeah, they're up already. Yeah. So the marks will be out in email soon.
Punch that guy in
Is
the
that shoes
armpit.
all up?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Have the weekend off. And